in the world. You had empires in Africa. You had the empire of Benin. You had empire of China. You had an empire in India. Money was well distributed in the world. But for the past 250 years, all that money has been concentrated in three places: North America, Europe, and Japan. How did this happen? How is it that they got the upper hand? Was it because they were better than us? Or was it only because they had better guns and a better sense of exploitation of others? So how can we accept this world in which there is so much inequity and poverty and injustice and just say, no, 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 you go and talk to your own leaders and vote and do things yourselves? Back to you, sir.
Well, I think you have been in the conference in 1993. I was not there. But what I am sure of is that when leaders of this world are negotiating conventions in conferences, each country has its. I can imagine that the US government may see another forum for such talks. That happens quite often, that this is not the right forum to do this is not the right forum to do that. But those who have drafted the 1993 documents for the Global Conference on Human Rights believe that indeed the right to development should be part of human rights. And by doing so, they are trying to gather the consensus. And I am happy to learn from you now the results of the votes. I was not aware of these details, and thanks for giving me these details, that only 4 voted against it, which is a good move. But at the same time, there are other forums like the UNCTAD, which is the United Nations Trade Conference based in Geneva, which are also in charge of other aspects of exchange, fair exchange in trade, fair trade between countries, and to make sure that the development part of the trade could be factored in a proper way. It doesn't mean that we should put aside the human rights. It should be the catalytic, it should be the bedrock on which everything should be built, because we believe mainstreaming human rights in these areas of development, social work, and health, shelter, and others help in moving forward in attaining the Millennium Development Goals. And I believe that by getting together and reaching that level of consensus, as you described, I think the leaders of the world have agreed that right to development is part of human rights. What I should clarify is that we should see poverty as also a challenge to human rights. We shouldn't be seeing it only as a wrongdoing of some, but you know, in developed countries, in well-advanced countries, in these groups called the group of the G8, you have poor spots in it, poor individuals, slums. So poverty is a challenge to human rights everywhere, and for that, right to development would advance not only the cause of developing countries, but also those of the countries where there are pockets of poverty, pockets of people who are totally neglected, and in which preaching human rights actually would help the leaders of this world to look at their duties and to make sure that those who are in need would be properly assisted, but also included in the social network of the country. We, as human rights advocates, we believe that the right to development is this is the moment to move ahead on this, and to make sure that there is a better agreement, a better understanding. It shouldn't be seen as a revolutionary idea as such, as some may believe, but rather a movement towards advancing the cause of humanity. I don't believe that we would treat it in a kind of law or order, but rather engaging governments in it to make sure that they are part of the process. Because by accusing or by finger pointing on some governments, we are only getting or dividing them in, and we may not get the results that we want. We would like to engage the governments who have the means to move ahead, and those who are in need to come together in a sort of consensus as they did it during the 1993 talks, to make sure that the right to development is part of their endeavors.
Thank you very much. Let's turn for a minute towards the concept of refugees and the particular problem of Africa. Until some dozen years ago, the big caseloads of refugees were in the Middle East, let's say the Palestinians, in Afghanistan, which was the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, and in Cambodia. But then Africa has overtaken this. And today, the largest caseload of refugees is in Africa. And the question, and some of it goes to the extent of being qualified as genocide in Darfur. And the question is, how much of this is because of human rights violations, whether it is poverty or whether it is governments which are not taking adequate care of the rights of their minorities? How much of it is due to the fact that the borders in Africa were drawn up by colonial masters in a drunken manner, in which they cut across ethnicities and divided people into countries rather than into peoples? What's going wrong in Africa? And in a way, what's going right in Africa also? Because I notice that despite the caseload of refugees in Africa, that great work is being done by the African Union to reverse the trend and for Africa to begin taking care of its own problems. You have personal experience of Kenya and you have personal experience of Chad. Can you tell us something about how you see Africa in the context of human rights and refugees?
Well, when I was at the university, I was using that argument, but I don't use it anymore.
Why?
Poor borders, there are fights there because of the borders which are not been properly drawn, or people got divided. Yes, there is a part of that.
Have you been infiltrated by Western ideas?
No, not at all. I think it's just a lousy argument, because there are more important issues. Impunity in Africa is one of the challenges that we should face. Why is that leaders cannot organize themselves to defend the rights of individuals and make sure that those who are committing crime should be brought to justice? Impunity is a challenge. We should put that. Let's put aside the border issue. Impunity is one of them. Combating impunity should be a priority. And then, one of the, you said it already, the global poverty, the pervasive role of poverty in many of these countries. Why we are fighting in Chad over water points. These are pastoralistic societies, and there is no water. Then we are fighting over grazing land in this part of our country. If you have a certain number of cattle, you need to take them to graze somewhere, and then you have those of the populations who are settled somewhere, who are working their lands, and who are fighting because we are the pastoralistic brings the animals in the fields. So there should be an authority who would be regulating that, so that people don't do justice themselves, but a government would be regulating it. This is done everywhere. And then discrimination on ethnic grounds, tribal, clanic, all this, just because the state is nowhere. So it's not a border problem. Discrimination could be